From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
To introduce myself first, I'm Adelaide Hawley, and I want to show you what's new in the world of women as of the past week. As usual, the girls have helped make the day's news every day. Let's find out what goes on woman-wise beyond our own personal horizons.
The ladies of Elm Grove Extension Club in Jackson County, Missouri have completed their first United Nations flag. The Agriculture Department furnished instructions. And now there's an uproar over the nation over the legality and desirability of flying the UN flag with that of the United States. Legal or not, Mrs. Dan Galvin thinks this particular flag is a beauty. She's president of the group. Vice President Mrs. Everett Wells seconds the motion. Mrs. Eleanor Bales is Jackson County home agent. The women of the club worked hard to complete the flag, and you can bet they think it should be flown. Anytime, anywhere. Confidentially, girls, you should have heard the gossip manufactured with this flag. If the flag could talk, it could write a book. But some of it would have to be censored for distribution in Jackson County, Missouri. Well, it was a lot of work. Now, if everybody can just agree that the UN flag is legitimate, everything's going to be fine. The next time a man makes a sarcastic remark about a woman with a hammer, refer him to the Air Force. Out in California, two of the best mechanics working on Link trainer planes are women. They are 19-year-old Corporal Alice Patton of Dunsmuir, California, and Private First Class Mary Gibson of Cambridge, Ohio, 20. They're two women who have the confidence of a great many men. The men who fly the planes have to trust these women. They keep the men in the air, all right, flying safely. There's a special language you have to speak when you do this kind of work, girls. And when you start talking, the folks at home wonder what in the world you're talking about. When Mary and Alice get through the day's work, they just keep on talking chop, though, and anybody listening in gets an earful of gobbledygook. These girls just can't make up their minds to go home. Planes are fascinating objects.
Everybody who ever spent any time in the kitchen knows just how this woman feels. And millions of housewives already know what's wrong with the picture. They know there's a simple little trick that will stop all those tears. But this woman doesn't know it. She spent the last few years going to college. She's smart, but she just hasn't figured this one out. Aha, a little bird told her. And for the benefit of 2,000 or 3,000 brides who may not know, she's filling the bowl with water for a reason. You hold the onion under the water and peel. You could run the bathtub full of water and climb in with the onion, but we recommend this instead. If you haven't guessed it, these are skunks, deodorized of course, and they live near Baltimore with somebody who thinks they're cute. When Suzanne Francis told her mother she wanted a skunk for a pet 2 years ago, Mama said if she found one, she could keep it. Mama thought she'd disposed of that problem neatly, but a skunk walked right into the greenhouse one day, and Suzanne had her wish. She has 6 of the little stinkers now, and she thinks they're ideal pets. No comment from Mama. Wonder who's on the Queen Elizabeth this trip. Somebody interesting, I'll bet. These people are returning from a pilgrimage to Rome. We could tell you their name, but we don't know which name goes with which face. So let's just look at them and see if we can recognize any of our friends or relatives. Nope, don't see any. But all my friends went to Mexico this year. Life's less precarious there, they say. Looks like these people enjoyed their trip to Rome, though. Who's this little fellow? Oh, yes, that's Jacques Gencel from France and his mother. Jacques will play in Bing Crosby's picture, Here Comes the Groove. Mama's an actress, too. Jacques will give her stiff competition.
Plane coming in, and somebody has to tell it where to go. Meigs Field on Northerly Island near Chicago lets Miss Betty Archibald do the telling. She's air traffic control operator and one of the first women to hold a control tower job in a large city. The gadget Betty uses to give clearances for landings and takeoffs is called a light gun. Betty likes her job, even if it isn't flying. Betty's a veteran pilot herself with more than 1,500 hours in the air, so she knows what she's doing.
Knit a dress and become a champion. That's what 16-year-old Virginia Megahan did. The Glendale, California girl won first prize when she submitted her entry in a contest staged by the Institute for Hand Knitting. Virginia not only knits a nice dress, she can wear one like a champion, too. Wonder what I'd look like in that. If only I was 16. Virginia says she isn't a fast knitter, but she's accurate. The dress that made her champion took 3 months to do in her spare time. It was light green, of woolen thread with the cross and straight stitch. Virginia learned to knit about 2 years ago, and getting to be the teenage champion knitter didn't enter her head then. But winning the title puts knitting on Virginia's list of first-class sports. Click go the needles, champion at work. One nice thing about this sport, you don't have to get all worked up over it. Just sit back in an easy chair and knit your way into a championship. One of the prizes coming Virginia's way is an all-expense trip to New York. And that gives her an idea. She'll just knit herself a dress to wear in the big city.
They're all property owners, and they're all riled up over rent controls in Los Angeles. And the landlords say there's too much delay in lifting rent controls. The picketing went on all day. Los Angeles officials denied all responsibility for the delay and, figuratively speaking, pointed a finger toward Washington. Wherever the blame lies, the landlords want action, and fast. It's discrimination, they claim, and they want it stopped. She doesn't make a practice of going around making scenes, but enough's enough, and brother, she's had enough. With rental property bringing in such low returns, who's got the money to have signs painted? They do it themselves. One woman's complaint will strike a sympathetic chord in every woman's heart. Her tenant has paid $30 a month rent for 10 years. In that time, the tenant has purchased an $11,000 house for a daughter. He's bought a Cadillac and has a television set. The landlady says she can't afford a television set, and she rides the streetcars. If the landlords don't get some action, they'll be back with some more ideas soon.
Mrs. Rudolph Bear of Gardena, California, is a great-grandmother, and she's only 54 years old. She married at 19. Mrs. Bear's granddaughter is only 15 years old. She lives with her mother in a duplex next door to Mrs. Bear. Her mother is Mrs. Bear's daughter, and a grandmother at the age of 39. The new mother, Mrs. Ronald Gerson, and her mother, who's Mrs. Bear's daughter. Mrs. Gerson's mother married when she was 16. 8-week-old Ronnie Ray has lots of relatives in the neighborhood. Mixed up? Well, it's this way. 4 generations live in a duplex. Baby Ronnie Ray lives with Mama, naturally. They live with Grandma. And next door lives Mrs. Bear, a great-grandma at 54. Mrs. Bear thinks youthful marriages are fine. Young people are more adjustable, she says. The Dionne Quintuplets are in New York, and Francis Cardinal Spellman is on the welcoming committee. This is the first visit to the United States for the world-famous Quints, and they think New York is wonderful. They're being chaperoned around the town by Papa Dionne, or maybe the girls are chaperoning Papa. Either way, they're all getting an eyeful. The Alfred E. Smith Memorial Hospital was of particular interest to the girls. The Dionnes are devout Catholics. A familiar object on the streets of New York is the sightseeing bus, but this one is different. This is the first time in history this bus has carried 5 of a kind. Quintuplets, that is.
And that's how it was in the women's department of the week's news. But now, before we leave you for a week, let's consider something else. Be sure to join us next week on this station at the same time. We'll keep you up to date on Women in the News.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.